Hi, everybody. It's Daryl. I thought I might just talk to you this way, just sort of person to person over video in this new world of Zoom and Skype and online chatting that we're in right now, instead of trying to type a whole bunch of paragraphs, trying to explain in a little more in detail what I have in mind for this year's TheatriCamp. So for those of you that are still considering doing it and a little bit on the fence, not quite sure how it's going to work this year, let me see if I can try to lay it out for you a little bit, and then see if you have any questions beyond that, and feel free always to be in touch with me if you do. First of all, let me talk about the Zoom aspect of it for a second. I know there's a lot of Zoom fatigue these days. I mean, it's thank goodness we have this technology so that we can stay in touch with each other so well without having to be in person. But I know for the kids who had to do school this way for 2 or 3 months, and any other sort of classes or other stuff that they're doing, that just being on the computer all day just really sounds dreadful, and it does to me too. So the first thing I want to say is that it's not the intention of this camp for us to be in a Zoom group chat with 30 people for 6 hours a day. I wouldn't want to do that either. So I don't blame you if that idea sounds dreadful, because it does to me too. So let me explain a little bit kind of how the Zoom aspect of this is going to work. The only time really in the day that we would intend to have like everybody in a Zoom meeting would be probably the beginning of the day, maybe for a half hour, 45 minutes at the most, something like that. And the idea is just to get everybody together, to check in, to do some warm-ups like we normally would do in camp, some vocals, some movement, talk about what the day is going to be about. And that's kind of it. And then the rest of the day, will be broken up into lots of different segments, and it'll be different every day depending on what you might be working on. We might do a group thing at the end of the day just to sort of wrap up, but any other time that we would be spending on Zoom would be much different. It would be really not that different than a regular day at camp. If you're working on a solo, for example, and you would want to have a session with the music director, we would just do it online, and it would be just the camper and the music director interacting with each other for 30, 40 minutes, working on a song. Again, not that much different than we would be doing in person. It would just be online and just be safer that way. And if it were a duet, it'd be 2 kids and an instructor, 3 kids and an instructor, depending on the number. Short segments to kind of learn numbers, sort of one-on-one. And for the most part, that would be the extent of the Zoom interaction, would just be learning material in short segments during the course of the day, and a much more interactive than the beginning of the day group meeting, where it's one-on-one and chatting directly with the instructor. So that's the intention. There may be other exercises that we'll do sort of online from time to time, but certainly the intention is not at all to be on Zoom for 6 hours a day. Ugh. Now, let me talk about the in-person element. Again, we're trying to grab the best of all possible worlds here and give the kids the most regular experience that we can under these conditions. And so that means trying to do as much in-person as circumstances will allow. So let me start by saying the 2 caveats that come with that automatically are, A, assuming that the state and the county and the city still allow us to do that. And right now, gathering in small groups for a camp kind of environment is allowed as long as you follow all the protocols. B, making sure that we do follow all the protocols. And I won't go down that rabbit hole now because there's so much to talk about, but we will be talking about that obviously before we start. All the stuff that we need to do, masks, distancing, cleaning, hand washing, all of that stuff that we would do. So assuming all of those things for sure would be in place before we would attempt any sort of in-person rehearsals, then the third element really is just up to you. It's up to each individual camper and family to decide if you want to come in person, if you feel comfortable doing it, if you want to do it maybe just a little bit, if you want to do it more. Again, my hope is to get kids in person interacting with us as much as is practicable, and as much as everyone feels safe doing it. So those are sort of the caveats. The idea is that it would be very, very small groups for a very limited period of time. So you would come in, let's say you were going to work on your solo, you would come in for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the most, just you and the director. If it's a duet, again, it would be just the two of you and the director for that short period of time. I think we might go maybe as high as 4 or 5 kids at a time in a sequence, but no more than that. So it would be, those 4 or 5 plus the instructor. That would be it for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You're in, you're out. Obviously, we get to interact. The kids get to talk to each other and work with each other, distancing with each other, and all that kind of stuff. But at least it would feel like a regular rehearsal, and would be a regular rehearsal. But no one would ever be there longer than a couple of hours, at a time. We're not doing meals there. We're not trying to do any of that kind of thing. And then if you're working on a number, then the idea is after those 2 hours, perhaps if we feel like we're ready, then we would actually record it. Or if we're going to come back and work on a little more on another day and polish it up and then record it. And as we go along, we would be recording all of these pieces, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Depending on the number of kids, how much interest there is to come in person, all of that kind of stuff. I could see one of our kids coming to us in person maybe one time, maybe as many as 4 different times over the course, depending. And again, everyone has to feel out how they feel about it as we go. We're going to figure it out as we go. But for the kids that want and need more of that in-person experience, and I would think that would be virtually everybody, we want to do it as much as we possibly can. The idea now for those who are not comfortable doing it, that's totally fine. We don't want anybody to feel like they're being left out of the process or not getting the full experience as much as possible. So anybody who's not comfortable coming in person, we will just do extended online time with those folks. It'll be it'll be more Zoom in that case, but you can get a lot done. I've been working with our theater company, our professional company, and lots of other companies. We're going to do a whole playwrights festival at the Road next month, and it's amazing how much you can get done not being in person, even though we would rather be in the same room with each other. We have very productive rehearsal times not being there. And I don't know about you, but I've had lots of times when I've been just in a chat with friends, 2 or 3 or 4 at a time, and I feel like I was in the room with them and not alone here in my office. So it's amazing what a good experience it can be, and I think we can make it for the purposes of trying to have as much of a normal camp as possible. So in terms of just sort of the schedule of the camp, again, those that have done camp with us know that every day is a little bit different. We have our structure, but for some campers, you're working a lot, say on a Monday, and then on that Tuesday, you only work on a couple things because we're working on other stuff. The great thing about this, I suppose, the silver lining is that you're not hanging around and getting bored if you're not being used for a while. You're, home working on your own material, or maybe chatting with a friend one-on-one, or doing some of the exercises that we'll send home that, the kids can do on their own as part of the educational aspect, of camp. But on any given day, you could, have your morning session, well, everybody, and then come to the theater and have your rehearsal, and then go home for lunch, and then get on another session with the music director in the afternoon and work on a song, and then maybe rehearse with one of your scene partners one-on-one, and then maybe a little wrap up at the end of the day, and that would be a day. And again, everybody's going to have different days each day, but that's kind of the way I see it playing out. So it'll be varied. Our goal is always not to do anything for any one thing for any long period of time, because attention spans, wear thin. The kids that are up for doing more will do more. The kids that are up for not doing as much, we won't do as much. The idea is then, as we are rehearsing these numbers, and again, we'll probably try to do like a one group number, which means everybody sings their part individually, and then I edit them all together, so it looks like we were all in, at the room at the same time. We might try to do 1 or 2 of those, but other than that, this kind of format, allows us to do a lot more one-on-one instruction than we normally have. Kids that have done the camp know that we spend the most of our time on our big group numbers, and individual numbers, usually get the least amount of time just because of how it all works with so many kids. But this is sort of the reverse. We're going to spend very little time on group numbers and really emphasize solos, duets, trios, and small groups. So the kids probably will have a little bit more featured work to do on a camp like this than we normally would have time for on a different camp. So that's kind of a silver lining in the format that we're doing, that we're hoping will make it just as good of an experience, maybe even slightly better in some ways, of an experience. Every time we wrap up rehearsal on a number, then we will record it, and I will put it all together and literally build the show in video form. And then that's something that we can have like a post camp, Sunday afternoon kind of thing, where we can all be on Zoom and watching it together. Everybody can watch the feed, including friends and family that can watch it online live with us at the same time. And I think something that they can then probably also keep and have, and watch at their leisure. So the idea is still to kind of build a show out of it, even though it's one where we're not going to all come together in a room and watch it together. We'll still experience it together, at the end of the day. So anyway, that's I just wanted to give you a little bit more of a thorough picture of what I have in my head without writing paragraphs and paragraphs about it. And everybody's going to feel differently about it. It's not going to be the same as it normally is, but we're trying to find ways to make it just as educational, fun in a different way. And I hope not only still allow them to have fun and perform and learn music and learn some stuff, but also, have something different and fun and interesting in their lives if they haven't been able to, and a little healing, a little connection, to the familiar. For those doing camp for the first time, obviously this will be a completely new thing. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully this informs your decision-making process as to whether or not you feel like it would be right for your kid. If you want to discuss it further, I'm more than happy to have conversations about it. And we'll plan on having, probably sometime this weekend, I'll open it up for, a Zoom meeting, like an orientation Q&A, open press conferencey kind of, ask me questions and get some answers, and we'll see where it goes. Obviously, it's not going to be for everybody, which we totally get, but we hope we get a lot of kids who are interested. I think we're still going to have a lot of fun with it, and we'll make the best of this crazy time. Okay, that's it. I look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks.